Okay, our today's topic is data structures in SAP, how the architecture is basically laid out in SAP for ABAP. We have two frameworks. One is client specific, the other is cross client. Now, what is cross client? What is client specific? We'll just talk about that as well. Client is a unit within SAP. If you look at the framework over here, um, this is the client. Now, client is a server where configuration or testing or user acceptance testing or data uploads or live transactions are happening. That is a client. Upgrades, if it is an ABAP server, that will be an development server purely for ABAP development. And we can have multiple instances for ABAP and for functional clients. So every instance of a server is a client where we are actually interacting either with configuration or transactions or both. Client is characterized by the fact that it has its own business data environment, master data, and user data. If you're talking about user data, then SU01. Okay. Now, if you look at the defaults, now what are the defaults? The dates, the date formats, time formats, numbering ranges and formats, output devices, these can be defaulted. And these are some of the data that is available from the buffer. Okay. The repo. Now, speaking of the repo, if we talk about our own ABAP practice, then of course, let me just show you some professional practice as we have already done. Let me share the screen. Okay. Okay, once it actually opens up, then we can see the repo. It stores all ABAP development objects. These are grouped together to form packages. Now, what are packages in ABAP? Let's go and check that. SC38. ZT74 papers. I mean, that's how you can actually create your own programs with timestamp. Because if you're creating a lot of programs, then you must have a timestamp so you can recall. And ZT74 is a reference that you are making this. And since this is our 74th batch, so we can reference it. But when you're in a professional environment, you need to have a code that identifies that this is your program. Okay, create. Executable structure. I'll explain these fields as well. Now, over here, the local object, this is important. So the package, what actually we are explaining over here is that package are containers. Now, these are vehicles for semantically. Semantically means logically. Linked development objects. Now, what are development objects? Program code, functions, modules, subroutines, tables. Now, these are objects that are interlinked together, and that is then grouped in a package, which is then transported to another client. Okay. So that client will be either a productive server, a production server, or it will be a quality server. That depends. I mean, that is up to the requirement of that moment. Okay. Now, client 100, this can be development. So this, and client 200 can be another instance of quality server. The repo objects that we're talking about is that the configuration of all modules is basically stationed at repo level. Now, speaking of repo, I'll come back to this place. Now, this is where you will be creating your own repo as well as we have created, and this becomes your part of the portfolio. Okay. Go ahead and make your own repo. Either it could be Codebug or GitHub, whatever you like, but we have actually gone ahead and settled with Codebug for various reasons. Okay. Now the repo, of course, since you will have a repo, SAP also has a repo where customer developments or customized developments can also be residing. Danish, I'll take your question at the end. If you talk about the programming side, now we are talking about the middle layer, the middleware where ABAP repo, ABAP buffers, and work centers are basically engaged with the presentation and the database layer at the same time. Okay. So in SAP, the applications are developed in ABAP, and the programs in ABAP are event triggered or event driven. Okay. In ABAP Workbench, what we'll be looking at are various areas that will actually help you to become a seasoned and experienced consultant. Okay. And these are the areas: data dictionary, screen painter, menu painter. This will be our areas of expertise. Okay. And these are some of the transactions that we'll be looking at very frequently. Now let's talk about some of the programs that we'll write right now, and we will launch it on the Git, on the repo. Okay, that will which will become a part of your uh, portfolio. Okay, so let me just pull out the program and let me show it to you. Okay, okay, okay. The local object. Server is a bit slow in responding. Okay. Now, when we're talking about executable program, it actually starts with the keyword report, and anything in blue is a keyword from SAP. Okay. Parameters. P name, type C. Now, this is character type, variable name, parameter name, P underscore name. P is just a practice, a standard practice to actually identify what this variable is. Okay. Now, this variable is basically going to accept parameters, and then we'll have a write, or we can also use initialization. By initialization, what do we mean? Now, this is basically the trigger or the processing block for programs, for